Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show. It's Friday, July 19th, 2019 here. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We've got so much to talk about today. And, of course, this being a Friday, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us in hour number 3. So the phone lines are open. Hang on a second. Don't know why this just locked up. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phones, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. And so let's just get right on into it because there's a lot of stuff going on here. Tomorrow, of course, is the 50th anniversary of the walk on the moon, the landing of Apollo 11 on the moon. I remember very clearly where I was, what I was doing when that landing happened. I remember being very frustrated that they weren't going to do the walk on the moon for a while. And then, of course, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin said, we can't possibly sleep now. We're going to do the walk on the moon now. And I remember, running out and talking to my mother and my aunt. We were actually visiting my aunt at the time in New Hampshire, and just saying, I remember, the race to the moon was a challenge by Kennedy to the American people in response to Russia's early successes in space, starting with Sputnik, which was broadcasting a radio beacon that any shortwave ham operator could pick up. Was a PR stunt, really, is what it was. And then they launched Laika, the dog. And then they launched Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space. And then Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space. And so we were playing catch-up, but catch-up we did. And on Apollo 11, during the race to the moon, there was, most people don't remember this, but there was a Russian probe as well that was trying to scoop up a sample and come back to Earth just to say, we got a piece of the moon before you did, even though you had men up there. But the Russian probe crashed, and that was kind of the end of that here. And it was an inspiring time. Everybody was building models of the Mercury and the Gemini and the Apollo spacecraft and the Saturn V. I remember I built a model of the Saturn V rocket, which I kept until we'd actually moved to Southern California, and then it got destroyed in the Sylmar earthquake. I had this beautiful Gemini capsule model I built, and I had drilled through the instrument panel with this micro drill and thrown all these fiber optics in there so I could turn it on and the instrument panel would light up. I was very proud of that one. And yeah, it captured the imagination of the nation for the most part. And I know a lot of the nation didn't really stay caught up in Apollo. In fact, on Apollo 13, by the time Apollo 13 came around, Nixon was thinking about canceling the rest of the program because he wanted to spend the money bombing Vietnam. But Apollo 13, as dangerous as it was for the flight crew, rekindled public interest, and Nixon felt he couldn't cancel the program at that point. And of course, the remains of the Apollo missions are still there on the moon. The flags are bleached white from the sun. The laser ranging retroreflectors are all still there and still usable. People are still using them. Some of the other instruments from the ALSEPs are still working as well. And of course, the lower stages from all of the LEMs are still there as well. And Apollo 11, including that little plaque. Here, men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 20th. We came in peace for all mankind. If only that had been so. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. Okay, so getting on back to Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of people are still talking about that case here. And the question is now coming on out, pardon me, how many of Epstein's famous friends knew what he was up to? You know, we all know he got this sweetheart deal. You know, he went to county jail for like 13 months. Should have gone to prison for life. And Alex Acosta, who arranged the sweetheart deal in 2008 and who recently resigned as Secretary of Labor, claimed that the mysterious billionaire had worked for intelligence without saying exactly who. So the guy was definitely a spook. We don't know exactly who for. Probably CIA, possibly Mossad, possibly both. The question is, how many of the powerful and influential people in this country does Epstein have videotapes on of them with underage young girls? And how much is Epstein controlling these individuals with threats of releasing those videotapes? Over in Turkey, as you know, they bought the Russian S-400 system in the United States, threw a tantrum and said, well, you can't buy our F-35. You know, gosh darn you, you can't have that fighter plane, which is very expensive. It doesn't work very well. Russia's Rostec has stepped in to fill the gap and said it's ready to sell the Sukhoi 35 fighters to Turkey. And Russia's ready to discuss supplying the Su-35 fighters to Turkey and saying if Turkey wants them, we'll work out the deliveries. We have no particular restrictions on them. And it may turn out that they're actually better than the F-35. I mean, let's be honest, the F-35 is not exactly The F-35 is not exactly flying off the shelves. So, well, it's a piece of junk, let's be honest. It's very expensive. It doesn't perform very well. And a lot of countries were encouraged to be committed to it early on, and they're committed to it early on. But I'm sure by now they're having second thoughts. Okay. Let me just answering some email here. All right, here's an article that came out of Zero Hedge. Defense contractors are tightening their grip on our government, which has kind of been a problem all along. Harry Truman had to deal with that prior to World War II. And this article starts out talking about President Eisenhower warning of the unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex. And what we have today is probably far worse than Eisenhower ever dreamed. When you look at a corporation the size and political clout of a Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin now receives up to $50 billion with a B in government contracts, a sum larger than the operating budget of the State Department. That's where all our money is going. We're on a wartime economy. They don't want to admit it, but that's where all the money is going. And unfortunately, our military-industrial complex is producing junk. Very expensive junk, but it's still junk. Whether it's the F-35, the F-22, which is still asphyxiating its pilots. You have the Gerald R. Ford that can't get those magnetic catapults to work. You have the Independence class and Freedom class littoral combat ships. Those are getting scrapped. They're going to start that program over from the beginning because of how poorly they formed. Then you have the Zumwalt so-called stealth destroyer, which isn't stealthy and which has got drivetrain problems. There's a major problem with our defense contractors. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Doug in Thailand, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike from Thailand, Sawadee.
Aloha.
I'm interested to talk about a little personal account regarding the Malaysian Airlines. I had a ticket. I went round trip from Malaysia to Taiwan and back, but I bought the ticket ahead of time. They were real helpful, got it on the phone, cheap, and they gave me a $20 booster to get from Langkawi to KL on the connector. It was unbelievable. But then when I'm a year on that ticket, they had the disappearing one, and I go back, and the day I'm trying to get out of there, the newspapers reporting the crash in Ukraine.
Okay.
So I was there, and I had to go to the airport because I missed my trip. It was just a screw day for me, and I ended up at the desk of Malaysia Airlines in the KL airport where the plane never arrived. The same night, basically. Bad move, you could say. You could see
Well,
the security
I mean,
guys. It was just this feeling like, and the thing is, the airline was destroyed. I mean, they were 80% lost. And you really wonder. I mean, it was already talk. I ended up going back and forth out to the airport and town, all this, because I was off schedule and new ticket, all that. Talking to bus drivers, people saying, gosh, it's like somebody's doing this stuff. But it's all talk, and that's all I had to say about it, really. Except that you really want to, what about the flight controller in Ukraine? Why was that one flight sent? I mean, that's the crux of it. And Mahathir is not buying the report from the U.S. side, or the no, it's not. It's the EU, isn't it? Or International Court.
Yeah. Well, it's the international investigation. It's not really a court. And despite being so-called an international investigation, it's clearly biased toward blaming Russia for everything.
Yeah, well, you think if they could really get to the crux of who's telling the why would the decision of to send it up there on that very dangerous flight path? Well, yeah, I just thought you'd mentioned it yesterday. I would call and say hi. Good luck to you also with your move.
All right, well, thank you very much. But I mean, you raised one of the important points there, that Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 was literally directed over an active combat zone, which it shouldn't have been. And
But uniquely, it wasn't like they were sending flights. It was the only one they sent that way. I mean, it's just,
That's right.
That's the standout fix, from it to me. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was,
thank you, Mike. I'm going to run.
all right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to
Have a
let you
good
go. All right. All right. Thank you for the phone call. I remember when I was doing some work for Abel's, and I was in Munich and flipping back and forth to Milan every week. Was a heck of a schedule. And on the 27th of December, 1985, I had to go through the airport in Vienna. And I went through there just an hour after terrorists set off a bomb. And there was just blood everywhere. And outside the airport, of course, there were all these military vehicles and everything. But it was my first experience with this kind of event, if you will. Okay, so now, apparently the United Nations has reached an agreement with Yemen rebels to resume food deliveries. So the World Food Program has reached an agreement in principle with Yemen's Houthi rebels to resume food aid to areas they control. Well, notice the word rebel, because the Houthis represent the Yemen people who want control of their government, control of their country back in the hands of Yemenites and out of the hands of this so-called internationally approved, U.S. approved puppet regime. But because officialdom has recognized this internationally approved government, obviously the Houthis, well, they must be rebels. So, anyway, corporate media is out there basically hitting Iran with more and more propaganda, and coverage of the Iran nuclear issue has been sort of off balance and biased for many years. And right now they're engaged in some serious crisis building between Washington and Tehran. Now, Iran has responded to Trump's withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal by resuming the stockpiling of low-enriched uranium, removing the cap on the level of uranium enrichment, and resuming work at the Arak nuclear reactor, while making it very clear these steps would be immediately reversed if the United States agreed to full compliance. In other words, if the U.S. comes back in to the P5+1 deal, Iran will shut it all down. Now, what Iran is doing right now is symbolic, They're not enriching uranium to the levels needed for nuclear weapons. They're not building nuclear weapons. They're simply sort of stepping over the red line a little tiny bit. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be back after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And yes, once again, Republic Broadcasting has their hand out saying, we need you. Republic Broadcasting wants you. We need your help. And the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1. and that's during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. Alrighty, now for some reason the Central Intelligence Agency wants to make it easier to jail journalists, and apparently nobody in Congress really seems to be objecting a huge amount. So the CIA is out there pushing for expansion of a 37-year-old law that would deter journalists from covering national security issues or reporting on leaked documents. And thanks to a delusion, CIA's Case Officers Action 75, there are currently a few limits on what can or can't be reported about covert operatives working overseas. In 1975, Philip Agee published a memoir about his years with the CIA. Attached to his memoir, which detailed his growing discontentment with the CIA's clandestine support of overseas dictators, was a list of 250 CIA agents or informants. In response to this disclosure, Congress passed the Intelligence Identities Protection Act, which criminalized disclosing the identity of covert intelligence agents. So be careful what you write out there. All right, Concerned Veterans for America. This is a conservative veterans group. They're planning to launch, actually as of today, a new digital ad thanking select Republican lawmakers for their recent vote to require congressional input before taking any military action against Iran. In other words, they're basically applauding Congress' attempt to take back control of the war-making authority as given to Congress by the Constitution. The president is not allowed to declare war on his own. Only Congress can declare war. At least that's the way it started out. Okay, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is out there flapping her gums again, accusing President Trump of putting millions of Americans in danger with his violent rhetoric. Well, I've listened to his rhetoric. I'm not feeling particularly endangered. But I think Alexandria is starting to self-destruct. She's playing the victim card a little too hard here. Representative Al Green, who led that failed attempt to get an impeachment vote against Trump, was being interviewed by CNN. And they asked him about that failed impeachment vote, and he just got up and left. It's always a bad move, but apparently that's it. All right, over in Israel, there's been another eviction. This from the Siam family for their home in the heart of occupied East Jerusalem. And this is after a 25-year legal battle against a powerful settler organization. So the settler organization literally got the courts to say, yeah, you can take the house. And so the Siam family's defeat represented much more than just another eviction. It was intended to land a crushing blow against the hopes of some 20,000 Palestinians living in the shadow of the old city walls and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Dozens of families in the Silwan neighborhood have endured the same fate as the Siams, and the Israeli courts have approved the imminent eviction of many hundreds more Palestinians from the area. But unlike those families, the Siam's predicament briefly caught public attention. That was because one of them, Jawad Siam, had become the figurehead of Silwan's resistance efforts. We'll be back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And over at CNN, their ratings numbers continue to plunge. And a lot of people are starting to call CNN the lie factory. Actually, they've been calling that for a while. And they're collapsing. They're absolutely falling apart. CNN abandoned real journalism, and they just chose to become a propaganda ministry for the Democratic National Committee and the corrupt upper echelons of CIA and FBI. And after 3 years of telling the most outrageous lies ever associated with an alleged news organization or an alleged democracy, CNN viewership is collapsing. And and their viewership has shrunk by 40%. And it's getting worse. Nobody likes a liar. And we're getting close to 1984 here, but we're not yet at the point where we're forced to watch just one channel on our view screens in our homes. We still have a choice. We don't have to watch CNN. We don't have to watch MSNBC. We don't have to watch Fox News. We can watch Republic Broadcasting. And hopefully you'll support Republic Broadcasting. Alrighty, apparently over at Netflix, they've decided to go into original content, and they're borrowing heavily to do that. It's a serious gamble. And I've noticed that a lot of these private channels like Amazon Prime or Netflix or Hulu are trying to produce original content to lure people in. I'm not sure that's a good business model, because the people who are already inclined to pay the money to be members of Netflix are already members of Netflix, and I don't know that original content is going to pull more people in. So that's just my opinion. Over at naturalnews.com, they have a very alarming article here. Shoppers are starting to notice the effects of the abysmal growing season here in the United States, as grocery stores in various parts of the country are having to post signage explaining that food shortages are the reason why their shelves are unusually bare. And they're talking specifically about canned vegetables, which is starting to run out at grocery stores across America. And we told you this was going to happen. It's a poor harvest season. And at a Kroger supermarket, one shopper snapped a photo of the sign in the canned vegetable aisle that reads, "Due to a poor harvest season, we're experiencing shortages on many of our canned vegetable items. We hope to be back in stock by the end of August. You won't be, I'm sorry." Similar signs at the Walmart. Mother Nature does not like the United States of America. We've had the floods, we've had the storms, and it's just really trashed our Midwestern states' farming land. And in other news, apparently out in Los Angeles, they're facing an imminent outbreak of bubonic plague. And Dr. Drew Pinsky is saying this is because of the growth of the homeless population and the failure of state and local authorities to deal with the rodent problems. So, machete murders and bubonic plague. Welcome to Los Angeles. Hope you enjoy the place here. And Dr. Drew has made his comments during a Periscope broadcast by Scott Adams, who's become a popular political pundit with a daily live audience of thousands of people. We linked to him as well. I was a big Dilbert fan. So, alrighty. The other day we were talking about how the new security-only update for Windows 10 installed Microsoft telemetry and snooping, and everybody's saying, well, maybe it's a mistake, maybe that. It turns out the new Windows 7 security-only update also installs telemetry and snooping. So they're back to basically keeping an eye on your computer here. Alrighty, there is yet another Windows 10 bug. This is in Windows 10 version 1903 regarding remote desktop connections, showing just a black screen. So remote desktop will not work. Apparently this affects certain older GPU drivers, including drivers, the Intel 4 series of integrated GPUs, and a black screen will be shown. Okay. An app styling itself as a more feature-rich unofficial version of Telegram was installed over 100,000 times from Google Play, only to provide minimum messaging services and to promote malicious websites. Named Mobonogram 2019, the app used code from the legitimate Telegram messenger and added a few scripts that ran in secret on the infected devices to help with persistence and with loading URLs received from the command server. By the time security researchers found the malicious app, its developer, Ramcal Developers, had already pushed 5 updates to the official Android store. Now, at this point, I'm ready to say that malware and cybercrime have become major problems, major threats to our society, and yet we can't seem to get anybody in the government interested in doing anything about it. Their attitude is, how should I say, very casual. Kind of makes you wonder, are they in league with the malware writers, the cyber criminals? So let's see. Just got an email here. You look to be in severe pain. Have you seen a doctor regarding your back? Not yet. I'm just on pain meds. But yeah, earlier this week I wrecked my back. Some of this work stuff for the move here, and we just got word that the person we hired to help us over this weekend yard sale will not be showing up when we thought she was. So it's a problem. Anyway, all right, the FBI finally did something good. In an FBI flash alert, the FBI has released the master decryption keys for the GandCrab ransomware versions 4, 5, 5.0.4, 5.1, and 5.2. Using these keys, any individual or organization can create and release their very own GandCrab decryptor. So, good. At least somebody's trying to deal with the situation. All right, there was a new U.S. campaign calling for a moratorium on facial recognition surveillance. Now, a lot of this is coming from the illegal immigrants who don't want facial recognition to be used to identify illegal immigrants. And normally I would say, let's go ahead and do that. But the fact of the matter is that the success rate of facial recognition has been very poor. And something like 80% of the hits it gets are bogus. And with a failure rate like that, I don't think this should be in the public, illegal immigration or not. I think we have to hold all of this technology to a higher standard, that it shouldn't just be thrown out there into the marketplace without really knowing what it can do. All right, Google has announced they're killing Project Dragonfly. This is their China search engine project that was going to be filtered. And they were working on it back last year. Pardon me. And Google hasn't ruled out the possibility of doing other projects for the Chinese government, but this one apparently is now dead. And I know that's going to make a lot of the Chinese people happy. It's probably going to make a lot of the American people happy because they don't want that technology coming here. All right, story coming out of LifeSite News. Parents explode as Republicans refuse to defend kids from library drag queens. We have been seeing this, pardon me, hang on a second. We've been seeing this for quite some time, where they have these drag queen reading hours in public libraries that kids are exposed to. And a lot of parents are becoming very upset, saying that no, in point of fact, we don't want our kids exposed to this. They're too young. They don't understand what it is they're dealing with. And we just don't think it's a good idea. So parents are expecting the Republicans to try and fix this. This story focuses on Lexington Park, Maryland, and angry local parents led by a mass resistance Maryland mother stormed their local county commission meeting on Tuesday evening with a strongly worded outrage testimony. They demanded the officials deal with the horror at the local public library. And apparently back on June 23rd, a drag queen story hour took place at the Lexington Park Public Library, where homosexual men dressed as garish women read LGBT-affirming storybooks to young children ages 3 to 8. They also conducted a drag queen makeup tutorial for tweens and teens, children 9 to 19 years old. Their stated goal to capture their imagination and give kids positive and unabashedly queer role models. Well, I can understand why parents would be concerned about that. These kids are really too young to be exposed to such things. When they get older and they want to find out for themselves, that is very different. But to have the public libraries drag in these kids and expose them to this, I can see why the parents are angry. I'd be angry if I had a kid. I'd be furious. Okay. I think we mentioned this briefly, but you know, there's a lot of controversy around FaceApp, and apparently one of the big issues is that if you use FaceApp and you use its filters to alter your face, FaceApp owns all the rights to the images. They're claiming they have rights to the images. They can grab. This is why you need to read the terms and conditions before you download some of these things. I don't know why anybody would want the rights to my face, but it's an issue. Okay. As I mentioned at the top of the show, tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing. And in the spirit of political correctness, the New York Times and the Washington Post have blasted the space program as mostly white and male and guilty of gender bias. Well, I have something to share from the inside of NASA. Okay? Those of us who worked inside of NASA, I worked Viking, Voyager, and Apollo 12 post-mission. We wanted there to be more diversity. We wanted there to be more women. They just weren't there. They weren't getting the necessary degrees at college. We wanted to have more women there because more opportunities for dating, more opportunities for a social life. They just weren't there. And we need to be very careful looking at this and understand that a lot of what is now being portrayed as gender bias was simply the fact that people of color and women just weren't going for those degrees the way the rest of us were. We wanted there to be women there. We absolutely did. All right, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be back after these few words.
Hi, this is Matt Ray for MySleepAllNight.com, and most of us don't even realize that almost all of the healing, learning, and rejuvenating that happens in our body happens only when we are deeply asleep. Now, if you have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, it's likely you never consistently achieve that crucial level of deep sleep. Deep restorative sleep is the key to health, mood, productivity, longevity, memory, you name it. So many health benefits. To experience what deep sleep feels like, try the new dietary supplement Sleep All Night, formulated by scientist Kurt Hendricks. And sleep like your life depends on it because, let's be honest, it does. Head on over to MySleepAllNight.com. That's MySleepAllNight.com. Enter the promo code RADIO for 20% off your purchase. Again, head on over to MySleepAllNight.com. Enter the promo code RADIO. That's MySleepAllNight.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Some are maxed out already. their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, distract yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I notice on Fox News they're talking about the new trailers just out for Top Gun Maverick. They're trying to wring one more movie out of that concept. And apparently Tom Cruise is coming back as Maverick, as an obviously much older flight instructor. So we'll see. I mean, it was a fun movie to watch. I mean, it drove up enlistment. I mean, everybody was signing up with the Navy, wanting to be a naval aviator. And in fact, it was such a phenomenon that the Air Force came on out and basically sort of encouraged a Nicolas Cage film called Firebirds to boost enlistment in the helicopter corps. So we'll see. Alrighty. They had heavy rain in Washington, D.C. on Monday, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went into full scare the masses mode. Oh, it's the end of the world. The sky is falling. It's just, you know, it's just coming on down. And, well, actually, you know, she made a concern about the 90-degree weather in Alaska. And 90 degrees sounds like it's very hot. And a lot of parts of the country reached 90 degrees this week. And we reached 90 degrees out here in Hawaii. But the hottest temperature ever recorded in Alaska was in Fort Yukon in 1915, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. In Fairbanks, it hit 96 in 1969, and Juneau, 90 in 1975. So about that summer rain, Kevin Williams, a 40-year meteorologist, slapped down with a tweet for fear-mongering in less time it takes to open a Repel windproof travel umbrella, basically pointing out that the amount of rain that fell in Washington, D.C. Wasn't really all that much. It didn't even fall in to the 10 heaviest 24-hour rainstorms on record in D.C. But the Democrats are out there still pushing human-caused global warming, got to buy carbon credits, got to pay carbon taxes. I'm going to make that happen here. So even the climate fear-mongering Washington Post had to admit that the maximum zone of rain was as narrow as it was intense. Totals in Washington's western suburbs were actually considerably lower, with 1.05 inches recorded at Dulles International Airport. At Baltimore Washington International Marshall Airport, only 0.74 inches fell. So they're still out there pushing that global warming stuff. We got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're going to go to the phones now, starting with Mo in Florida. Aloha, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. I just, this thing's moving so fast. There's so much going down that it's hard to keep up with. Sometimes I'm sure you feel the same way. You just want to just go somewhere and forget it all, you know?
Yeah, I know that feeling very well.
I can imagine you do more than just about anybody. Maybe Ron Paul. But, you know, he's got a disposition kind of like yours. You know, he kind of rolls with the punches. But I don't know. Are you familiar with this? I know you know the. I can't think of the guy's name, but there's a woman by the name of Nicole Junkerman. Do you know who she is?
No.
Richie Allen was talking about her on a show, I think yesterday, I think. She was a high profile, went to very high educated in Monaco and then to Harvard and started all these companies, flew around with Epstein, started a lot of, her name is Nicole, Junkermann. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
She started a company called Carbine 911. Well, anyway, she started a lot of companies. She's a very high-profile, best buddy with Epstein.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she was involved in any of the, you know, the child stuff, because I haven't heard any of that. You know, it could be just a business thing. She's a very aggressive, you know, female, which is fine. I'm all for it. But one of the things she started with this Carbine, Carbyne 911 was, I never heard of this, and I was kind of wondering if you had. Well, you dial 911. Instead of dial 911, you dial this other number. And they have all these reasons why. They'll get faster information to you. They'll, if you can't communicate, they'll you know, they do a better profile you and get help to you faster. And it's all going through the deep state, the Mossad. This is chilling. I mean, she's all about this. The whole thing is a connection with the information on everybody. But can you imagine when you call 911, they want you to, you know, she's tied in with the whole, you know, everything that would happen with 9/11, with the whole Mossad connection, you know, wiring the whole United States together so they can eavesdrop on everybody. But this was just chilling. Her name is Nicole Junkerman, and the company is Carbine, Carbyne. It's called Carbine 911. And the whole thing is, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but to get people to call that number instead of 911, this is bizarre, Mike. I'm telling you, it's right. It's George Orwell has got nothing on these people.
Yeah. No, it's a little scary. I've heard of a company called Carbine, but the one I heard didn't have the 911 after it. But yeah, this idea And I can see why a lot of people might be attracted to this new company, because when you call the traditional 911, the response can indeed be very, very slow. And most people, when they dial 911, they're dealing with a life-threatening situation. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you accept the loss of your privacy in order to get a faster response.
Well, she was in with the whole Israeli situation with Epstein. Her capital investment company was. This was a new way to get people to call instead of 911 to call this other number, and they record everything about you on what it's just another eavesdropping situation, and her name is Nicole Junkerman, Junkermann. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I thought it was very fascinating and very scary. So just kind of trying to add a little information to the show.
Just so you know, calls to the regular 911, they're all recorded as well.
Right, but this is filtered differently. This is filtered through, you might as well just say the Mossad. You really might as well say the Mossad just to make it simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
You're going directly through their lines. But you look it up, Mike. I know you got plenty to do. If you looked up everything everybody told you, you wouldn't even have enough time to have dinner. But
True.
I'm just telling you that this is Nicole Junkerman. She is one scary woman, and she's tied directly to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying the sexual things. I don't know anything about that, like I said. But I'm just throwing that out there, Mike, and so your listeners can hear it. Okay?
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. And
All
we're
right.
going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Back to the phones to Tom in Philadelphia. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I sure hope it's cooler there because it's hot as blazes here.
It's 89 degrees here.
Okay, well, you're about 80, about 10 degrees cooler. Anyway, I got a few things. First, I'd like to thank everybody that responded to John's show yesterday about the free electricity to help RBN. So thank you very much for all those that participated. The other thing, you were talking about Lexington Park, Maryland. I used to live there and work there. That's where the Patuxent River Naval Air Station is. And when I lived there back in the 80s, because my son was born in St. Mary's County, Lexington Park, and it was quite, I thought, at least I felt, it was quite a conservative community. So to hear something like that explode, it doesn't really surprise me. Although it's every time we have bad weather here, it's like gloomy and all that. It always reminds me of Lexington Park because it was nothing to do there except go fishing maybe. And other than that, the money that we were paid, because I worked at the test pilot school, the Navy test pilot school is there, and I worked there, and they paid you just enough to keep you alive, but not enough money where you could like save up and escape.
Yeah.
And something of interest that might interest you is it was so bad that when my wife was pregnant with my son who was born there, I was working 2 full-time jobs. I was working 7 to 3:30 in the morning. I was working for McDonnell Douglas Northrop, and we were building the first 9 F-18 prototypes and the 2-seater Harrier. And I'll tell you what, that Harrier is a heck of a plane, man. I can't believe how that thing performed. But I know you're into aircraft and stuff. Have you ever seen one up close?
Oh, yeah. I've had a chance to sit in one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been in them a lot, working on them. But the other part of the interesting story is that the test pilot school, the contractor there was a company called Dynelectron Corporation, which I now believe has changed their name to DynCorp.
Okay.
And I know you've mentioned them a lot about the child what do you call it? Where they're shipping the kids all around, stealing, kidnapping the kids and whatnot. So I didn't know if anybody knew that, but DynCorp used to be Dynelectron Corporation out of Fort Worth, Texas, Dolly Madison Boulevard in Fort Worth, Texas. And I never did like their management. They were a bunch of old military creepy guys with butch haircuts and used to drive us. You know, they thought they were still in the military the way they treated civilian employees. But, you know, it's just terrible. But it was fun working on aircraft. I mean, I really loved it. I loved aviation. And
yeah.
So just thought I'd tell you that. So Lexington Park is back on the map.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I know how much fun it is to work on aircraft. And I remember there was one time I was working on a commercial for Qantas, and they actually arranged for us to go down to the airport and have a tour around a 747. And I'm talking about on the ground, you know, looking up at the landing gear, not just inside the cabin, outside. And that was really a lot of fun. And the other part that was fun about that,
we had about 25 different model aircraft there. That the you know, we trained Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Navy. Well, all four branches there. We had all four branches aircraft there, and we worked on everything: you know, A4s, A7s, T2s, T-38 Air Force. We even had I think it was like a B-25 bomber come in, one of the old ones, the old turboprops.
Yeah.
You had to put a big can of gunpowder in the nose cone to get it to start the engines when you didn't have a huffer around, and we made some big firecrackers with some of that stuff, boy.
I can imagine. Did you have a Lockheed Constellation?
No, but we had C-130s. You know, we had another contract. We were going around the country, and we were overhauling the jet engine test cells that they used to test and calibrate the C-130 nacelles. And that was, you know, that was a heck of a job. Those roll-around test cells were built in like the 50s, and we had to completely remanufacture them from scratch just about. You know, we kept the chassis and the things and cleaned them all up, repainted them, rewire everything, and they didn't have schematics or anything. You reach underneath the console and like to look at the wire bundles, and you just touch them and the insulation would crumble off. That's how old they were.
That's a bad thing here. Well,
it was a mess, but
the reason I mentioned the Constellation is when we were at the airport getting the walk around of the 747, over by the side was a Lockheed Constellation, and the reason that was significant is the very first aircraft I ever rode on as a kid was a Lockheed Constellation, and it was a passenger flight. We had to fly through a thunderstorm. Everybody in the plane was sick except yours truly, who was running up and down the aisles and looking out the windows at the lightning and just having one heck of a time. All right, well, listen, Tom, we're going to let you go.
Okay,
Thank you very
have a
much
good
for
night.
the phone call. And we're going to switch over to Don in Iowa. Aloha, Don. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
You said something about CNN going down the tubes, which is true. And I personally have not been able to watch CNN at all for many years. I mean, I just can't stand it. CNN or MSNBC also, although I'll watch Morning Joe once in a while just to see what's on his mind there. But, you know, recently, like about a month ago, there was a change that came over YouTube where not only, at least from my perspective here, not only did they start making it hard on people like Alex Jones and others to, you know, to have a channel, really, they banned a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah.
But besides that, before this change happened, they would prompt, their prompts for me would be stuff that I was likely to probably like. For example, the first time I heard anything about Michael Rivero is because it would pop up. It popped up on YouTube, you know, just at random. There was a prompt based on the spec that I was watching Alex Jones and some other people like that. So they were saying, well, why don't you try this guy, this humble-looking man here with a T-shirt on, and see if he's any good or not, you know. So, but then when this change happened about a month or 2 months ago, they started trying to push me onto CNN and MSNBC and ABC. You know,
Yeah.
it's like one of these geniuses up there that works for Google was saying, well, for some reason this guy's not watching CNN. I know. He's probably because he doesn't know CNN exists even, you know. So we'll just have to put CNN right in front of his face. And obviously when he clicks on CNN and MSNBC, he'll switch over because, you know, we're trying to help this guy out because obviously he's off the wall if he doesn't like CNN. But or maybe CNN just flat out bribing Google to do it that way. But,
I think probably the latter is the more accurate situation because we're seeing all of these corporate social media outfits are clearly pandering to corporate interests, whether it's suppressing concerns over vaccine safety, concerns over GMO safety. We know that they're certainly shutting down conservative points of view politically, and now they're pushing corporate media over independent media. And I'd say that, yeah, probably a lot of money has changed hands over this.
what I finally ended up doing is these things, these little boxes that you can click on here in YouTube. They usually give you these 3 dots. You can click on it. There's 3 dots.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You click on those 3 dots, and you can either say not interested, but what I started doing was reporting. Every time I would report CNN for either for hateful or abusive content, violent or repulsive content. That's not a stretch. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, everything CNN does is hateful, abusive, violent, and all the above there, you know. So I started doing that, and finally, they got the idea. They don't put CNN up here, but they still put Fox News and some of these other things that are kind of maybe they think is limited hangout, like the Ring of Fire or something. They put up. It's still trying to. I think they're still trying to get me to go over to the more to an establishment position. But anyway, I outsmarted them by just reporting them every time for violent, hateful, abusive, etc., sexual, whatever. Okay, I'll let you go, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and it's kindly, it's an open secret, if you will, that the corporate social media has now become as compromised and controlled as the regular corporate media, and they are serving corporate interests, whether it's the vaccine makers or GMO or the other corporate media. And they have become pretty much useless at this point. All right, so again, tomorrow, 50th anniversary of the landing of Apollo 11 on the moon, the walk on the moon. And there is this former NASA intern, Gary George, and back in 1973, he paid $217 for 1,150 reels of magnetic tape containing 2 hours and 24 minutes of recordings of the Apollo moon landing, including Neil Armstrong's declaration, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Now, the tapes are now going up for auction at Sotheby's. They're saying that he could get anywhere between $1 million to $2 million for these pieces of history. Maybe. It's all going to depend on the condition of the tapes, because magnetic tapes don't hold their information for that long. Even under ideal storage conditions, magnetic tape can lose its information after just 5 years. But apparently between 1969 and 1973, it still had the information. The question is, from 1973 to 2019, does it still have that? Alrighty, SpaceX had another whoopsie. Their Star Hopper, the test vehicle for a reusable long-haul spacecraft project, basically burst into flames after a series of tests in Texas. The craft was destroyed by the blaze. After successful tests last week saw the Starhopper literally hop several inches off the ground, SpaceX's engineers lined up a more ambitious series of experiments for Tuesday with one of the company's Raptor rocket engines affixed. The Starhopper was set to lift 20 meters off the ground without a tether and maneuver side to side before touching down again. However, before the craft could get airborne, disaster struck during static test firing of the rocket, and big whoopsie. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to Kevin in West Virginia. Aloha, Kevin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Elon Musk is on my mind, Mr. Mike. You were talking about SpaceX.
Yes.
You know, I don't know whether to trust Elon Musk or not because I see good things coming out of SpaceX. At least he's doing something.
Yeah.
Where you know, like NASA, I would like to see NASA, you know, grab the bull by the horn and get back into space. Absolutely. But the part why I say I don't trust him is I see things, you know, like the Neuralink that he's pushing. You know, the whole transhumanism thing and you know, merging with machine. It's just, you know, I'm blind, and if they came out with, you know, cameras to fit in my eyes, I don't know if I could go that route and change my humanity. That's why I don't trust him.
Well, it's not like any of the things Elon Musk is doing are mandatory. They're all voluntary, like buying a Tesla. I think Elon Musk has simply taken on too much. I think he's got this very inflated view of himself. I think what he's doing with SpaceX is wonderful, although that's probably the management of SpaceX and not Elon Musk. Clearly, the opposite is true of Tesla, where they're in serious trouble over there. But I'm cheering on the people at SpaceX. I want them to do well. I want the United States to be a spacefaring nation, like we were way back when.
Totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you. I mean, it's you know, I mean, I try to stay optimistic and things. It's just the Neuralink scares the living bejesus out of me. I don't like that at all. And you know, I don't know if these are things we should really be messing around with.
Well, I certainly would never sign up for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Although I'm sure all the William Gibson fans out there are like saying, yeah, let's get that going.
Absolutely. But thank you. That's all I had to, that was my 2 cents I wanted to put in for today.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Kevin. We're going to let you go. Getting on back to the news here, there is a concern, and it's yet another concern about our toxic environment, where tens of millions of Americans in 43 states may have been exposed to toxic fluorinated compounds known as PFAS or PFAS in their drinking water. In a report from last May, the nonprofit Environmental Working Group showed how PFAS had exposed upwards of 19 million Americans through contaminated groundwater. EWG found 610 contaminated locations ranging from public water systems, military bases, military and civilian airports, industrial plants, dumps, and fighter training sites. Now the environmental advocacy group has identified 58 more military sites where high levels of PFAS used in firefighting foam have been detected in groundwater or drinking water, from Elmendorf Air Force Base and Fort Richardson, Alaska, to Fort Eustis, Virginia. And we've been hearing about this for some time, that the firefighting foam that is used on these military bases and overused for training is in fact very, very toxic. Alrighty. Here in Hawaii, there's a bit of a controversy going on. And I'm not talking about the light rail system. I'm talking about the 30-meter telescope, which has been approved for construction down on Mauna Kea. And it has resulted in a huge public protest from indigenous Hawaiians who are convinced that this represents a desecration of the sacred mountain, even though there are already 13 observatories up there on the peak of Mauna Kea. But for some reason, this one seems to be an observatory too far. So there was another protest up there. They blocked the road. It resulted in the arrest of a lot of Hawaiians. And this is a $1.4 billion project to build the 30-meter telescope. Now, here's the way I look at this, and I wrote letters to the local newspapers. If this was, in fact, like a fertilizer plant, I would be in agreement with the Hawaiian people. It's a desecration. But right now, Madame Pele, Mauna Kea, is crowned with a crown of the very finest jewels that can be produced by science and technology. And every crown requires a crown jewel, and that 30-meter telescope will be the Koh-i-Noor of the crown that rests on Madame Pele. And Madame Pele's a woman, and women, they do like their bling. And that was the argument I put out there. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The tower.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Before tuning into you, I was listening to one of our local talk show hosts here, and they was talking about the Iran seizing these. What was it? One was British, and the other one was Liberian.
Yeah.
Freighters. And already, people around here, it never ceases to amaze me. The local people around here are talking about what America should do. And I'm looking at these people and I'm like, seriously, trying to explain to them that we have military bases spread out over 180 countries around the world. We are already stressed in playing the world's policeman. Why don't we just, Britain is big enough and powerful enough that it could utterly and completely annihilate Iran if it wanted to. So why don't we let Britain deal with this? And if they need our help, let them ask. But, I kind of doubt they're going. And, their first response is, well, they're our allies and we should. It's like, whatever happened to wait until you're asked? This garbage of sticking our nose in everybody's business constantly. And as soon as something happens, what's the first thing people want to do? They want to go and blow something up. Seriously.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, as part of the propaganda that we've been fed over the years is that it is up to the United States to go on out and be the world's policeman and to respond to these things. But you're absolutely right. Great Britain will deal with this. Now, my understanding is that this British tanker strayed out of the sea lanes, strayed out of the proper access lanes, turned off their transponder, and headed toward an Iranian island. So it looks to me like this was an intentional provocation on their part.
Well, if that was the case, I'd say, yeah, that's definitely intentional for their, But Mike, I'm telling you, I agree with you. I think, with everything you say about, coming into World War III, and this, from what I see, this I think is just another piece of the puzzle to try to instigate a war with Iran. We know they want it. It's the one thing they haven't been able to pull off yet. They've been able to pull off just about everything else. It's just Iran is just, that one thing that just keeps sticking in their craw and they just can't get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, they've been talking about war with Iran for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, and who was it came out and said during a conference or whatever, somebody named off like 5 or 7 different countries they were going to go into and all of that. This is the agenda. This is part of it. And I think Iran is the one that they really want. I think that's the notch they really want to put in the belt next.
All right, you're thinking about General Wesley Clark. I mean, he basically came out and blew the whistle on this war plan back in, I think it was 2005. And he said, there's this list of countries that the U.S. plans to invade and take control of their wealth. And the last one on the list was Iran.
I think this is what they really want this one. They're not going to feel complete unless they get it. So it seems like they're going to do everything in their power to get Iran to do something stupid. And I'm wondering if this, now that Iran has actually made a move like this, I mean, this is a pretty bold move to make against Britain. This is pretty bold, considering they're pretty much next door to each other.
Yeah.
And if this, and then we got Trump talking about, they better not do anything stupid. How much more stupid could they get other than killing the hostages? I don't think they could get any stupider. But I think this is just trying to set it up to give them an excuse to go in and do what they've been wanting to do. Anyway, thanks, Mike. Have a great one.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, now you probably remember that Al Gore said the North Pole would be all water and no ice by 2018. Well, actually, here we are in the middle of summer, and the ice is 10 feet thick. In fact, it's so thick, the Norwegian icebreaker Kronprins Haakon, on a mission to the North Pole for the Institute of Marine Research, was forced to turn back north of Svalbard after meeting considerably thicker and more massive ice masses than expected, which the vessel was not capable of breaking through. So, gosh darn that human-caused global warming. And you still have, let's see. Let me do this. Alrighty, getting on back to some of these other news stories. Apparently, Governor Evers has declared a state of emergency and authorizes the National Guard help following the downtown fires. This is over apparently in Wisconsin. Yet another pharmaceutical company chief has been charged with flooding an Appalachian town with opioids. Those are coming on out there. And apparently Robert Mueller witness George Nader is now charged with transporting a 14-year-old boy for sex and child porn. I really do not get this. I really do not understand this. Alrighty. More talk about how the documents starting to come out about Jeffrey Epstein are going to reveal a staggering number of names involved in the pedophilia. Well, that'll be good. Sure, why not? If you're going to do things like that, you should be exposed and ridiculed. I think we already talked about Los Angeles facing an imminent outbreak of bubonic plague here. And let's see. Well, now they're trying to say that the slogan, America, love it or leave it, is actually from the KKK. And they're trying to tarnish Donald Trump with that because he used it at the North Carolina rally. Now, as I said the other day, America, love it or leave it, was a phrase that we used a lot when I was a kid, and nobody ever associated it with the KKK. I have never seen such childish infighting in the government, not in my life. And maybe it was going on all along in the back rooms, in the hallways, but to see it break out in the open like this, I don't know. Okay. Apparently, leftists are now out there saying that tipping your server is rooted in racism. You're now racist if you tip your server at the restaurant. Well, considering how little those people make, they need to be tipped. They deserve to be tipped if they do a good job. And I don't think these leftists understand just how much they're going to harm these people. All right, there's another wrinkle about the Epstein story coming on out. Apparently, one of the reasons the judge denied Epstein bail is apparently the police investigating or examining his Manhattan apartment found evidence of an escape plan. So Epstein already had an escape plan ready to go, and the judge said no. Well, okay, great. Okay. Apparently, there's this report out of ProPublica and the Anchorage Daily News, and it exposes just how easy it is for criminals who've been convicted of serious crimes to become cops. When I first read this article, I flashed back on Clockwork Orange. You know, at the very end where two of the protagonist's gangs are now police officers, and they abuse them. So apparently they've got this police department up in Anchorage. Every cop in the department has been convicted of domestic violence. One is a sex offender. All right, we're going to go back to the phones. Mark in Georgia. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I think we need to stop confusing loving the country with loving the dishonest official narrative. When they call it American exceptionalism, I call it American deceptionalism, because it's based on, well, you know, we won this violent conflict that we started based on a false accusation, like accusing Spain of sinking the USS Maine, and then 200,000 Filipinos who, even if Spain were responsible for the sinking of the Maine, they had nothing to do with that. 200,000 Filipinos died in that conflict that had nothing to do with the sinking of the USS Maine. So I think people need to distinguish. Loving your country means loving the truth so that we can get away from making the same tired mistakes over and over again. And it's like my bumper sticker that I've made, that I've put together on my own laser printer at home. Support the troops, hang a politician within due process. Because I'm not talking about, you know, I think there was something, was it George H.W. Bush who said, or was it his son who said, if people ever find out what we did, they would run us down on the street and lynch us. But the thing is, if you lynch somebody, you don't have a due process where the crimes are exposed. So, you know, I would say, yes, Lincoln deserved the bullet, but he was deprived of due process. He lied through his teeth about a conflict where basically there was no rebellion. He locked up 12,000 people like me for telling the truth that the South had the right to leave the Union, and there's no place in the U.S. Constitution that obliges us to remain in the Union. So if we love a false narrative and somebody tells you the truth, they confuse loving the truth and genuinely loving the country to make needful correction with hating the country. Like, no, I don't hate this country. I love God, and therefore I love humanity. And yes, that includes the American people. I have a special, because I'm familiar with the American people, while on one side I have a special affection for the American people, I also have a certain disgust for how horribly we've all been lied to over and over again with complete impunity. And it is the impunity of these treasonous lies that makes the situation keep getting worse. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And by the way, it was George Herbert Walker Bush who made that comment. If the American people ever found out what we did, we'd be chased down the street and lynched. And that, I think, was in the Sarah McClendon newsletter that it was quoted.
I would think that may have to do. I've read information that indicates that George H.W. Bush may have been complicit with the assassination of JFK, and basically there was a coup that happened where JFK was, from what I understand, he was trying to reinstate a lawful government, and they wouldn't let him do it.
Well, there were a lot of people who did not like JFK for a lot of different reasons. You had the Federal Reserve that was opposed to Executive Order 11110. You had Israel, which was angry with JFK because he was trying to keep them from getting nuclear weapons. You had organized crime that was angry with JFK because they felt he double-crossed them. They'd helped him win the election. And then he appointed his brother Attorney General and started the war on organized crime. Then you had the CIA, who felt very betrayed over the Bay of Pigs issue. So, yeah, John F. Kennedy made a lot of enemies very quickly.
And the problem is not just enemies, but enemies. It's one thing to have enemies who have a moral foundation and have a moral framework and they have legitimate grievances. But his problem, JFK's problem, was essentially he made enemies of people who are not bound to morality, and he was striving for morality, even though. But like I say, the main point is don't confuse loving a dishonest narrative where we exalt ourselves according to a false narrative of how, look, we defeated the Nazis only to become like them. And I find that same evil spirit that brought Hitler to power in Germany and Stalin in Russia, it's at work right here, and it's working through. The answer is not a prideful mentality of exalting ourselves, but a humbling of acknowledging that the truth is that these lies are only going to have power as long as people believe them. And because of the internet, people are awakening to the fact that what we've been led to believe and what really happened, thank you, what really happened,
Plug.
plug. But like I say, I appreciate your good work, and I am hoping to send some of those bookkeeping entries that we wrongly call money to RBN, and I got to go through some numbers, and you know, I'm going to give what I can. I wish I could give more, and as soon as I figure out how to win the lottery without buying a ticket, I'm going to send you a big chunk of money. But you know, I say that in jest. It's like I told the plant manager where I've been working. You know, as soon as I figure out how to win the lottery without buying a ticket, I'm out of here. And he laughs, like knowing, yeah, well, that's not likely to happen now, is it? But, you know, like I say.
Well, I'll tell you, as soon as I get to Indiana, I'm definitely buying a couple of Powerball tickets.
Somehow I think somebody called in AJ, I guess you got to go. And they said, yeah, if I win the lottery, I'll help you out. He thought about 1984 regarding the lottery, and I can understand where he's coming from.
Okay, Mark, we got to let you go. Got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75% dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to try to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. And recently I started having a nagging bicep pain and I couldn't lift weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend of mine, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in the veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After 1 week of taking Angioprim, The pain was gone, and I'm back in the gym full strength. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com, ANGIOPRIM.com. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim helps promote cardiovascular health. Talk to a trained consultant, or you can call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-8221. That's 877-882-7221. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
The most patriotic thing you can do for your country is be a well-informed citizen.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing. Not, problem with Americans and a lot of other people and a lot of other, they don't know the difference between their country flag and then their government. They always gotta, it's like with the Iraq War, Mike. This was the oldest trick in the book. They have all the support the troops. Remember the magnetic things you put on the back of your car? They had the yellow ribbons wrapped around the trees.
Those.
And then when you spoke out, but remember when you spoke out against the war? And what did they say? You don't support the troops. Oldest trick in the book. That's a trick. It was just a ploy. If you speak out against your, if you speak out against your government, you're not with America. You're not with the United States. It's like an old trick. Yeah, that's why people say I trash Trump. I'll trash anybody. I trash Obama, the Bushes, the Clintons, and Trump. And I'm not actually trashing. I'm speaking out against what he's not doing. That's not. Since when is the truth? People offends everybody, either Republican or Democrat. That's the problem. This tribal thing, our side, their side. It's a trick.
Yes.
I see something that's not right. I'm going to speak out about it. That's me, man. I'm not going to hush up for nobody. I don't care who the hell you are. And Mike, that being said, I want to talk about. I got to disagree with another caller you had. About Britain and Iran. There's no way. The British are not the same power they used to be. Britain's got a lot of problems right now, and so does France.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way they're not going to take Iran. I mean, there's no way. It's a bridge too far for them. I don't even think we can take Iran. Maybe air supremacy and naval, but boots on the ground, there's no way in hell the British are going to take Iran. That's just impossible. And second of all, Mike, those ships, the first ship, nobody knows whose ship that is. Like it's like a mystery ship that was stealing oil. It basically pirating oil, and they seized it. And the second ship is a British. It's not a British flagship. It's Liberia. It's a British company, but Liberia flagship. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on here, and
yes.
and I want people to remember this. During the Syria war, ISIS was stealing oil from Syria, and you know who was buying it? The British.
Yes.
So there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. The British ain't all holy. I mean. They got a lot of. Look what they did us during the Revolutionary War. Look what they did to China and India and all that. So, and Scotland and Ireland and the rest of it was an empire, just like we are. And Mike, by the way, I don't think the British. The drone. Trump says that we shot down. I don't believe that. I think
Iran is saying we accidentally shot down one of our own drones. Anyway, Dustin, gotta let you go. Gotta take a station identification break. Back with hour number 3 and the lovely Lady Claire after these few minutes.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the love. Pardon me, got the hiccups again.
Poor baby.
The lovely Lady Claire. We have a couple of callers waiting on the line, held over from the last hour. So let's start with Stephen in Oregon. Aloha, Stephen. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Blessings, Claire. Blessings, Michael.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to give you a little information. I've had a bad back since '96, and I found that you can go on YouTube, and his name is Dr. Eric Goodman. It's called Foundation Training by Eric Goodman, and the exercises are they look complicated, but just do the best you can. And if you guys can find somebody who knows his technique, just get them trained. Then you won't have a bad back the rest of your life.
That would be wonderful, and thank you for the suggestion.
Now, normally I don't have a bad back, but I wrecked my back seriously the first part of the week related to our impending move. And Claire and I have reached an agreement where if it doesn't get better over the weekend, I'm going to go see a chiropractor on Monday. If we weren't moving, I'd be buying one of those gravity inversion things that hold you upside down, because I had one once before with my first wife, who also had a chronic back problem, and I really enjoyed it, and it worked very well. So definitely after the move, I'm probably going to get another one.
Well, definitely just check out his videos, Dr. Eric Goodman, okay?
All right.
And I have one more comment.
Yes.
I have one more comment.
Yes.
All your listeners who are voters out there, I just want them to ask themselves, is voting yourself out of a corrupt system possible? And that's all I have to say today.
No, if voting could really change things, they wouldn't let us do it.
That's all right. I appreciate it. Love you guys. Love you guys.
Back at you.
All right, thanks a lot. We're going to switch over to Fred in Iowa. Aloha, Fred. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, that Dustin and the caller before him were pretty spot on. Kennedy, why he was killed, is because he was exposing the deep state and the New World Order. But what he was mainly, the organization that, the system that had him killed, is the one that doesn't want to have a separation of church and state. That's what got Kennedy killed. So the church had him killed.
Well, there were
I
a
got it
lot
right
of people
before me.
involved in the assassination. There was no one party or individual behind the assassination. Mossad was involved, CIA was involved, organized crime was involved, the Federal Reserve was involved. It wasn't just one group.
All the alphabet names, yes, you're correct there. But all the alphabet names have a head. If and until you discover who that head is, you're just blowing against the wind. But I'll read what Kennedy said. I believe in America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source, where no religious body seeks to impose its will directly or indirectly upon the general populace or the public acts of its officials, and where religious liberty is so divisible that an act against one church is treated as an act against all. Remarks to the Greater Houston Ministerial Association, September 12, 1960.
Wow.
And Claire, if she studies the book of Daniel, and especially chapter 7, and then goes to Revelation, Lady Claire, if you're listening, do that.
I
And
am
you'll
listening.
understand. Now, Mike, why I called up is, who is the biggest terrorist state on this earth?
I'd say probably the United States.
You're correct. Claire, give the book of Daniel and Revelation because they go together. It's imperative that you understand Daniel, understand Revelation. Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. We're going to do a shout out now to our honor affiliates just now rejoining the network. And Claire, what is your first story?
Well, I think that you covered it to some degree. It was about the new kids in town when it came to defense contractors. One of those being very, it's a $50 billion a year industry and growing like crazy. And what I was thinking about when I read this article, Karl Marx was not an idiot when he made that observation that all wars are economic in their nature. I mean, that's something you can't get away with, And through wars, the military-industrial complex makes obscene profits, even with products which are inferior, late to market, and have an incredible, unjustifiable markup. So it is also with the banks which loan money to governments to keep the wars going. Banks love wars because they feel that they can charge the usurious interest rates that they do.
Wars are the bank's richest harvest of debt.
Yeah. And now the only people for whom wars are horrendous are those who have been, shall we say, press-ganged into fighting them. Now, Mike, I can't say for certain if the U.S. government is planning to reinstate the draft, but were I a betting woman, I would not bet against this happening. Maybe even as late as the end of 2019. particularly if there's another horrific false flag to most probably be blamed on the villain du jour these days. That would be Iran.
Yeah, they're going to have a false flag. If they just reinstated the draft right now, that would trigger an uprising of the American people, such as we saw back in Vietnam.
And those demonstrations, which were basically peaceful, were what ultimately turned the government's hand away from this horrible war. People have more power than they realize. And these wars are not about honor, glory, or protecting or preserving the American way of life, however that translates. Wars are about regime-changing governments to create governments which are Western U.S.-centric, expropriating resources to which the U.S. government has absolutely no moral right, and ensuring that those resources are only sold in U.S. dollars. Because if you take a look at all of the wars, from President Bush's attack against Afghanistan and Iraq, President Obama's regime change in Libya, because Gaddafi had a plan to institute a gold-backed dinar, which would have absolutely wiped the floor with the U.S. dollar, and President Trump's threats against Iran for regime change and its oil wealth. The pattern is so clear to me, Mike, painfully obvious. And I would say, in my world, patriotism consists of honoring the good people that do good for their country, which may or may not be something they do for money. The polar opposite of
We're certainly not making any money doing good for the country over here.
Who knows? That could change. But the polar opposite for me of patriotism is milking a government for every cent you can in the name of defense, when what the military-industrial complex generally creates is very expensive junk, which completely underserves our men and our women in uniform. And I would like to shout out to all of them who listen. God bless you. Now, as those of you who read the blog and listen to the radio shows, you understand I am a Christian pacifist activist who believes that the U.S. government should use its entire range of options, including hard-won, moral, reasonable negotiations before declaring a war against another government.
Yeah, but war is so easy.
Yeah. Because without it, the deep state and the military-industrial complex die. They go away. Oh, and I wanted to talk to you about this dueling seizure thing, and apparently Iran has seized a U.S. tanker for violating international regulations.
It's a British flagged tanker.
Okay.
And basically, this tanker veered out of the international
lane,
turned off its transponder, its locator, and headed toward a Saudi Arabia island.
Whoa.
And so Iran obviously intervened on that, and they're trying to figure out just what the heck was going on here.
Yep. It's very strange. We know that we have an Iranian ship that's still in Gibraltar, and wasn't it said that by this weekend that was going to be allowed to go on its way, but it hasn't been, right?
It's only going to be allowed to go on its way if it can provide guarantees it's not going to Syria.
You know, I would really like for the U.S. to be as rational about this as they possibly can, the Brits as well, and Iran. I frankly do not see or feel any threat from Iran at all. And if you would like to look for another website that might be interesting to you, it's called presstv.com. This is the English language version of the Iranian view of news. And in fact, I commend it to you because even if you may not like the guys, you know, I think the people of Iran have a right to their life and the success of what they're doing. And what they're doing, as far as I can see, is not developing nuclear weapons, which, of course, Netanyahu is constantly screaming about.
And so is Bolton.
Yeah.
Bolton's back out there screaming that, you know, obviously Iran is working toward a nuclear weapon. Okay, show us the proof.
Yeah, and there's none. There's absolutely none.
No, the IAEA has been maintaining inspections, and they're saying No, Iran was not making nuclear weapons. They have not been making nuclear weapons. They are in full compliance with the Non-Proliferation Treaty and the P5. Well, they're not in compliance with the P5+1 deal anymore.
Yep. And it's also strange. A couple of days ago, they were reporting that Rand Paul is supposed to be meeting with Iran's minister to the UN. Excuse me. But we need a breakthrough on this, Mike. Do you think that Rand Paul was the right guy to send on this mission?
Oh, absolutely. The Warhawks are absolutely furious about it. Rand Paul does not think we should go to war with Iran. Trump is in agreement with them. And so, yeah, I think if anybody can make a peaceful deal, it's going to be Rand Paul.
Well, I am hoping, and this lady is praying, that there is some sort of a breakthrough coming up. Because, Mike, it's obvious that we're headed toward a war with Iran, which may well mean war with Russia. A couple of weeks back, end of June, there was a very high up member of the Russian government that said, if Iran is attacked, it will not be alone. She will not be alone.
Yeah.
And, you know, people in Russia only sneeze when Putin tells them to, so I'm sure that this is something that Putin wanted to see go up the food chain.
Well, Russia has indicated they will come to Iran's assistance if it's attacked for quite a while now, that they'll basically turn Iran into a war of attrition and grind the United States down slowly, as they did in Syria, Afghanistan, and Vietnam. And yeah, it's a strategy that's going to work.
Yeah, we do not need another Vietnam. We need smarter ways to get what we need, we the people, and not have to go to war for it. The other thing I wanted to take a look at with you today, there are going to be some very interesting repercussions with Turkey, because the day after the S-400 came from Russia, Putin is dangling some really incredible fighter jets.
The Sukhoi 35.
Yeah. Those are absolutely incredible. Now, what do you think is going to happen with Turkey and the NATO League? What's going to go on?
It looks like Turkey is moving away from NATO. It looks like Turkey is moving toward Russia. And they may get their hands on the Sukhoi 35 and discover that it is a superior fighter to the F-35. That would be embarrassing.
Very well. The F-35 has never been out of the woods in terms of problems it's had.
Well, I mean, Israel has used the F-35 as a launch platform for some attacks into Syria. But in test dogfights, it doesn't do very well. It's not a good fighter. It loses out to 70s vintage aircraft like the F-15. So it's a piece of junk for the money. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a caller.
We have a caller on the line here. And Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Hello, Claire. Hope you feel better. I hope you feel better soon, Mike.
Thank you.
You're lucky that Jack Lord and Cam Fong can't pull up to your door and arrest you for operating a microphone under the influence.
That's a great line. Thank you. So what's on your mind today?
Well, actually, I called about the tanker interdicted by the British last week. I want to mention the F-35. Everything we're told about that thing is farcical. I mean, it shouldn't even have an F designation. It should have an FB, fighter bomber. It's a great big finger. No, because it is. It's a fighter. A fighter bomber is designed for a different purpose than a fighter.
Right.
The F-22 Raptors are supposed to be the high air cover, air superiority fighters. And those have their problems, suffocating the pilots and all that sort of thing. The F-35, a fighter bomber is designed to carry in ordnance and be able to kind of fight its way out until it can get covered by the air superiority fighters above. And so they're mismarketing it as a fighter in the first place. It's a great big single engine craft. I personally would prefer two engines if I were going into harm's way.
Oh, yeah.
The heads-up helmet targeting system hasn't worked, as Mike says. The vertical takeoff version for the C version for the Marines hasn't materialized. They used one for a bombing for its first attack in somewhere in Iraq against ISIS or someplace recently, where there was like virtually no opposition, aerial opposition or anything like that. So that's crazy.
Okay,
even the
Glenn.
F-22 Raptors.
Glenn, I got to put you on hold. Do not hang up.
Okay.
We got to take a break for commercials. I'm going to come right back to you after these few words.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we're talking with Glenn in Philadelphia. We're talking about designations of aircraft. And, you know, it's not without precedent that the designations on aircraft do get changed. When the F-111 first came on out, it was designated a fighter, and then they just discovered that during high G maneuvers, the pivots on the swing wings, which was an idea they copied from the Soviets, would crack. And so they said, okay, it's not a fighter, it's a medium bomber. And so we might see the designation on the F-35 changed in the near future.
Problem straightened out, I guess, with the F-14 Tomcat, and that was the backbone for a while. But then so the F-35 is far and away the greatest single weapon system ripoff of the American taxpayer ever perpetrated by the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
They're trying to make it look deployable. They've trained American, British, and Israeli pilots for them, and they're trying. The full production run will never be completed. The C model may never be brought online for the vertical takeoff. I mean, all they need is a few of those to nose in the way the Harriers used to, and then it'll be a nightmare. So they'll probably avoid that. The heads-up display helmet targeting system will probably never be perfected, but they've got to make it look deployable to keep it controversy low while they work like mad to bring the F-15X version into service.
Yes,
and so that's what they're trying to. The F-15X is what they're going for. But in the meantime, the Navy still needs an air superiority fighter, and they're way short on parts for F-18 Super Hornets. They need to get the Super Hornets up to snuff for the Navy, because that's their backbone at the moment. So the whole thing's a mess. And with regard to the Navy, of the 12 or so carrier squadrons we have, how many of them are actually deployable and at sea at any one time?
Not many.
You have the Marine assault carriers and the super carriers for the Navy, and so all this talk about us saber rattling, I mean, and about the draft, I really don't think they could even begin to institute a draft because they can't handle the personnel issues that they have now, with problems with morale and discipline and fitness of recruits and stuff like that. So I don't see them changing to a draft model anytime soon because they just don't have, logistically, it would just be impossible for them to handle.
Too much,
anyway.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so over to the British interdiction of the Iranian oil tanker last week. Mm-hmm. They were saying that they did this on the basis, and they arrested the captain. The Gibraltar police arrested the captain and the first officer, and they said they were not out of keeping with the sanctions. Well, sanctions could include things such as tariffs or boycotts if you don't want to sell something, but not the boarding and taking of the other country's merchant vessels.
That's an act of war. I mean, hello.
Yes, Britain, and Britain has been trying to backpedal and supposedly find a way of getting out of this. Yeah. And now the head of the Iranian Republican Guard supposedly, taking 2 tankers now, right after Rand Paul was deployed sent over there by Trump to try and make nice. Mm-hmm. So no sooner was the story about Rand Paul going over there in the news yesterday than today this. Mm-hmm. So it's just one insane thing after another, and it just amazes me. Everybody will cry foul about Iran doing this, and yet it was done to them first.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And all this stuff about us having the moral high ground. Well, we certainly don't have the moral high ground. Neither do we have the better aircraft. Oh, by the way, the F-22 Raptor, in addition to its oxygen supply issues for the pilot, has maneuvering thrusters, maneuvering nozzles only in 2 axes. The Sukhois have maneuvering nozzles in all 3 axes. And if you've ever seen some of the maneuvering and dogfighting, videos displayed on those things, they are nothing short of amazing. And even though they're not stealth, I feel sure that their maneuverability and dependability give them the edge.
I've seen the YouTube videos. I've seen the YouTube videos of them, and they are amazing aircraft. And I'm not sure how stealthy the F-22 is. Again, the Russians are saying they've developed a radar that can penetrate U.S. stealth technology.
Right. Have you seen the videos of the Sukhois dancing merely yards from the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Dancing about. It's really quite something.
I saw this one video.
So,
There were two of them that were just sort of dancing around each other and literally just, a couple of feet from the ground.
Right. Exactly. And the F-35, I believe a Japanese pilot crashed in an F-35 in Paris and the plane was lost just in recent weeks. And of course, everyone wants to blame pilot error. But you mean to tell me they aren't putting their best pilots in those things? So I have my doubts. But anyway, that's what I wanted to rant about. I think it's wise. I would say people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And it would be wise of us not to saber rattle right now. Take care, guys. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks an awful lot. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person, you. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened? What's really
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Claire, what is your next story?
The next story comes from Zero Hedge today, and if you haven't read it, particularly with an eye to financial issues and how they are impinging how governments are dealing with each other, apparently today something just broke, and there was a repo rate which soared to 1,000% overnight. That's pretty scary numbers, and investors have fretted that China appears to be on the verge of a Lehman moment, where wholesale interbank liquidity and overnight funding of markets suddenly lock up. And apparently the reason for this is that China's short-term lending market for banks and other financial institutions has operated for years under the assumption that Beijing wouldn't allow big losses in the event of defaults or insolvencies. Hence the reason why Baoshang Bank's failure was a shock. The confidence has been shaken by regulators' unusual public takeover of the troubled Chinese bank near Mongolia last month. And even more wild, Mike, there is a public admission by the central bank that not all of Baoshang Bank's liabilities would necessarily be guaranteed. Let me say this again. The Central Bank of China has stated that not all of Baoshang Bank's liabilities would necessarily be guaranteed.
In other words, if you're a depositor there, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Same rules we have here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. What is it that we, people who are part of a banking system, it's something to do with holding a position in the bank, or that money can be taken out?
Well,
if the bank needs to fit.
We used to be customers and depositors. Now we've been arbitrarily declared to be unsecured investors in the bank,
yes,
which means we share in the bank's losses.
Right.
Okay, we have a caller on the line.
Good.
So Brian in Chile. Aloha, Brian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, thanks, Mike, for taking my call. But Mike, I have a question for you regarding the F-35. Does the F-35 have an operational pet name like, the F-15 is called the Raptor, and then the Sokolov 27, I think, is called the Flogger, and then there's the Warthog and stuff like that. Does the F-35 have a pet name like that?
Well, first of all, the Raptor is the F-22, not the F-15. And as a matter of fact,
I stand corrected.
I don't know if there is, in fact, a pet name for the F-35, and the fact that there isn't one may be indicative of the fact of its lack of popularity, because the U.S. basically partnered with other countries for the F-35 deal, but now that it's actually out there and people can see how it performs, they're not exactly flying off the shelves, as it were.
Yeah. Well, that being the case, Mike, I'd like to propose a name for it.
Yes.
Mike, have you ever played a game of lawn darts?
Yes.
Lawn darts, it's a cross between horseshoes and regular darts?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a thing about maybe a foot long, and it's a dart-shaped sort of thing. It's heavy on the end with a point, and you throw it up in the air, and it comes down, and you try to hit the hula hoop little targets and score points. Well, I think that's what they should call the F-35, the lawn dart.
That might be a good way to go. Personally, I call it the Fireball F-35, but then you have to be my age to get the reference of that.
Oh, the Fireball? Well, I am your age, Mike. In fact, I'm 4 years older, but I still don't get it.
Okay, well, it was a TV show. It was one of those British-produced puppet marionette shows called Fireball XL5.
Never heard of it.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's all I had to contribute, Mike, is a little bit of humor. Oh, and I might want to add that you made a big mistake moving to Indiana. You should have moved here to Chile.
Oh.
Well, we went to Indiana. because we have family there. We might actually wind up across the border in Tennessee, but we'll just see what happens, okay?
Okay. Well, good luck to you anyway, and I'm a big fan of yours. I've been listening to you a long time, and God bless both of you, and I hope you're super happy when you get there to Indiana.
I sure hope that we are too, because if I'm not, Claire will never hear the end of it.
I know, dear. We are going to make Indiana well.
All right.
Okay, we're going to make it work.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we're going to go back. What is your next story?
Again from Zero Hedge. They're talking about Facebook's fake crypto as a fiat money clone. Now, this was originally authored by Thorsten Poletit via the Mises Institute. Now, starting in 2020, that's next year, and we're getting closer to that, Facebook apparently wants to offer its customers a global high-tech currency and infrastructure. Now, what they are saying is that this will provide many people around the world with easy and cost-effective access to the monetary and financial system. Now, Mike, this is based on what's called blockchain.
Yes.
Can you explain? I see the word. I'd like to understand a little better what it means. Can you
It's
help me?
basically a system of encryption from beginning to end of a transfer, and it's supposed to be absolutely secure, so that what you think you're sending or receiving is what is actually being sent or received.
Okay. And technically, they're going to call it the Libra. It's something akin to a crypto money banknote covered by a basket of official fiat currencies, such as the dollar, the euro, the like. And at the very core of this Libra project is the Libra Association. Now, this is a non-governmental association based in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's supported by founding members such as eBay, Facebook, MasterCard, PayPal, Spotify, Uber, Visa, as well as other very impressive firms, and will be responsible for the operation and further development of Libra. But the article goes on to say that traditional banks have a lot of reasons to actually worry about this working, because what the Libra is going to do, Mike, is about to siphon transactions out of bank accounts and put them into this association's hands, not bank. But the Libra Association will collect the fees and will receive precious data on who pays what to whom, when, where, and how. And the banks will be left even more in the cold should customers begin to use Libra for saving purposes as well, because then they would also lose the time in saving deposits with which they refinance their balance sheets at lower cost. Or think of the credit business. The Libra Association may at some point provide its customers with short-term consumer loans. In any case, from a customer's perspective, it is a good thing if and when the competitive pressure in the banking business gains momentum. And as it's well known, it does stimulate competition, which stimulates research for better products and lower prices, which do benefit the customers.
Well, I'm already hearing all the negative press about the Libra, which I assume is coming from the conventional banking industry.
Right, right. And how are they going to regulate it? What seems to be interesting to me is that they're thinking that the government is not going to come in and start regulating them as a cryptocurrency.
I'm sure the government will come in and regulate them. That's the government follows the law of the hammer.
Right.
If you give a small child a hammer, everything they encounter needs pounding. If you give a government the ability to regulate, everything they encounter needs regulation.
Yeah, I agree. Something's happening in the Senate, which I think I kind of applaud. Apparently, there is a Senate bill which would properly identify Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Now, this comes about by a resolution introduced by Senators Ted Cruz and Bill Cassidy, and I'm not necessarily a favorite of either of these guys. But I think that calling a spade when it comes to the violence these people are doing,
yes,
I think we have to stop it. And I mean, I can't get within like 10 miles of someone with a feeling like that, because my back issue may become permanent at that point.
Yeah, I'm starting to think my back issue may be chronic now.
And it was introduced yesterday, and the resolution defines Antifa as a movement that intentionally combines violence with the group's alt-left positions and represents opposition to the democratic ideals of peaceful assembly and free speech for all. And then the measure goes on to list several examples of Antifa behavior, including assaulting conservative journalist Andy Ngo in February and June of 2019. And these attacks put the guy in the hospital. It also includes one of the things Antifa has done. They have doxed ICE employees. Now, Mike, can you explain what doxing means?
Doxing is finding the personal information on somebody, their address, their personal phone number, and making it public so that they can become targets for harassment.
That to me is so mean, so petty. And they actually confronted an ICE officer when he went to pick up his kid from summer camp, and plastering his name and photo on flyers outside his home, labeling him as part of the Gestapo. Mike, this is insane. You know, sanity and reason have gone off to another part of the forest. They're
I'll
definitely
agree with
not
you on
here.
that one.
Yeah, you know, and we have to have some reasonable discourse if anything is going to happen and make a change for the positive. Now, as a Christian pacifist activist, I try to do this with logic. I try to do this and look at where the data converges in terms of what you are getting from maybe several resources. The other thing that Antifa likes to do is completely rejecting the authority of law enforcement to protect free speech and stop acts of violence. I hope
They're
this
brown
will-
shirts.
Yeah,
Is what they are. They're
yeah.
brown shirts.
And those were neo-Nazis, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah. The brown shirts helped the Nazis to power.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then they got betrayed
Uh-huh.
by the Nazis in what was called the Night of the Long Knives.
Yes, yeah. And there also were book burnings, correct?
Oh, yeah. But that was done by a lot of people,
Yep.
not just the brown shirts.
Yeah. I'd like to go back and talk a little bit more about this thing, tit for tat, with Iran and various Western vessels. Mike, what do you think is going to be the ultimate outcome of this? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Well, again, you know, it would be good if Great Britain would release the vessel they've seized. It's going to become a stare-down competition. They're going to glare at each other over the seized tankers. The crews are just going to sit there wondering what the heck is going on until finally the U.S. comes on in with a military force to basically recapture one of these tankers and rescue it.
I just hope that sane heads will prevail all throughout the Gulf of Hormuz.
If sane heads were prevailing, we wouldn't be in this mess to begin with.
I hear you. I hear you. I'd like to get back to Michael. Okay. I'd like to get back to another issue which has been very much on my mind. It appears that the Turks are massing for an incursion against U.S.-backed Syrian Kurdish forces. Ankara regards them as terrorist allies of the Kurdish PKK inside Turkey. Now, Mike, how will the U.S. and Turkey avoid a collision that could wreck NATO? Is this possible?
Well, at this point, given the friction over the S-400s and kicking Turkey out of the F-35 club, which actually they did Turkey a favor.
Yeah.
I would say probably Turkey is going to go ahead with this. And if the U.S. comes on in, Turkey is going to basically stand up to them and say, you know, look, these allies of yours have been causing a lot of damage to our country.
Right. And, you know, this is very sensitive right now for NATO.
Yes.
Because the Turks field the second largest army in the alliance. And we've got the Hawks predictably calling for the expulsion of Turkey from NATO and expulsion of U.S. forces and nuclear weapons from the Incirkik Air Base in Turkey in retaliation, maybe not out of the question. I mean, that's Turkish ground, right?
Well, that would be another favor for Turkey to get those nukes out of there.
Yeah. And President Erdogan really has sounded defiant. And he said, "We have begun to receive our S-400s. God willing, they will have been installed in their sites by April 2020. And they are, Erdogan is calling the S-400s of Russia the strongest defense system against those who want to attack our country. And apparently now what Erdogan is talking with Putin about is joint production with Russia.
Yes.
And, you know, now with the UAE pulling its forces out of Yemen as Congress seeks to restrict U.S. support for Saudi forces fighting Houthi rebels, and to sanction Riyadh for the murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, if the UAE pulls out and the U.S. is cutting its military aid, the Saudis will not be able to prevail in a war that they've been unable to win even with our help after 4 years of fighting.
Yeah, those Yemenites turned out to be a lot tougher than expected.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And but the article says at the end, and if the Houthis win, the Saudis and Sunni Arabs lose, and Iran wins.
Yes.
Yeah. And this week, to strengthen the U.S. presence for any confrontation with Iran, President Trump is sending 500 additional troops to Saudi Arabia. And while the U.S. and Iran have thus far avoided a military or naval clash that could ignite a major war, the maximum pressure sanctions Trump has imposed are choking Iran's economy to death. Aren't they?
And on that thought, we've got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. And Claire, what's your next story?
Well, I wanted to go back to this thing of the maximum pressure that President Trump believes he is placing on the Iranian economy. And apparently it's really choking the economy very badly. And one aspect of this that I don't think gets enough public attention, the sanctions are also forbidding U.S. medication that some people in Iran really sorely need to preserve their lives or get well. They're not getting it. And I would say that it's a pretty lousy thing to be sanctioning right now. Medication, no, guys, come on, you can do better than this. Now, apparently in Doha, Qatar, the U.S. is negotiating with the Taliban over the conditions for a withdrawal of the 14,000 U.S. troops still in Afghanistan. And right now, Mike, the Taliban are controlling more of the countryside than they have since being ousted in power in 2001. That's like 18 years ago.
In other words, we lost this one.
Yeah. And what is happening, the U.S. has been conducting or trying to respond to regular suicide bombings in Afghan cities and towns. So it's very hard to see how this Kabul regime and its army will prevail in a civil war when we're gone, when they could not while we were there. And
in other words, we lost this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Another last-minute thing about the budget and the debt. Apparently, Pelosi has rejected the latest White House offers on debt ceiling deal as talks have stalled. And in what appears to be the first rupture in the debt ceiling talks, Pelosi has reportedly rejected the menu of spending cuts offered by the White House to offset the budget cap increases that were reportedly agreed upon last week. She is... What's going on here? Is she trying simply to stonewall President Trump the best she can on this?
Well, no. What she's trying to do is preserve the Democrat giveaways to voters looking toward next year's elections.
Right. And this has got to come into a position of conciliation, because otherwise the government has to shut down, right? Because they have no money to do anything.
Well, what's going to happen is the same thing that's happened before. You're going to get the Republicans and the Democrats make stink face at each other. They're going to scream at each other over fiscal irresponsibility. And then in the end, they'll vote to raise the debt ceiling.
That is the pattern.
And they'll go on spending more money and just say, well, our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren will pay it all off.
That's a really... not a nice thing to do to future generations of Americans at all.
It isn't, but our government has been doing it to every generation, including ours. We're still being taxed to pay off both world wars and so forth. Anyway, there's the music. Time for us to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots to share with you. Please share what you know with all of your friends and family. Use email, use face-to-face, bring back SneakerNet. Please donate to RBN. Donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.